starts. It's a very tense moment. I'll give it a few blasts with the glow plugs. Wait for that light to go. Give it one more. That's right. I was suspecting a bit more of a struggle than that. Okay, let's get this heating on and get this thing warming up. Okay, so apparently the weather temperature is -1, but it's incredibly frosty. It's supposed to be -2 the other day, and it wasn't anywhere near as frosty as they say. Who knows? The atmospheric changes. Right, I'm going to go back inside and sort some bits and pieces out and leave this warming up out here. The only thing is, I have to keep the window open. I've got it running with the keys in because it's one of those cars that tries to lock itself, or does quite often, in wet situations. If it's humid at all, I think something happens with the central locking, and all of a sudden it'll lock itself. And if you've got the keys in there, then yeah, you're stuffed, aren't you? So yeah. Right, let's get warmed up and let's get to work in a few moments. Oh, by the way as well, about this morning, another video went online at 6 this morning. I was meant to put it at 600 hours, I should have done, but it went on at 6 this morning. So one went on last night at 5 o'clock, one went on 12 hours later this morning at 6 in the morning. So yeah, enjoy an overload of plastering videos. Although there's not that much plastering in them really, more talking about monkeys. Might do some more monkey talking today. Okay, right. Oh, I'm feeling a lot better from man flu, as you may tell, much more chirpier. So that's all good news as well. Right, I'll stop gabbling on. I'm going to go and get coffee. Good morning guys, how are you doing? We're sitting here outside the job again, the job of all Arctic ceilings. I'm feeling a lot better today, to be honest with you. Man flu is losing its battle with me, and I am coming back from the dead, it would appear, and everybody knows how bad man flu is. So yeah, still been banging out a few videos. I was struggling a little bit for content because I kind of get a bit bored just on the same job, repeating the same things, just ceilings, Arctic ceilings. How many times can you say different things about Arctic ceilings and how to tackle them? So yeah, I came up, I was sitting here and I started talking about monkey and stuff, and diverged into some other areas, and it's provoked quite a few comments, I must admit. So we might start looking into some other little subjects like that in the future. But for today, it's our last day here. We've left ourselves a nice easy day, which I like to do on the end of a job, because you need to get your tools out, you need to tidy. I don't like having a really hard day for the last day of the job, because you're rushing around and stuff. I like to, you know, leave it nice and clean for the customer. It's a private household, it's not a building site. So today, what is the plan? We're going to finish off a little ceiling in the hallway as you come into the house. I'm probably going to give that to Shay, and then there's a little utility round the back with a small downstairs toilet, and that hasn't been prepped up at all yet. And if you go over to the Facebook group that we've just recently started up, it's public, you can just join. It's entitled Plaster Master Smurf 74, just like the YouTube channel. There's been quite a lot of talk about PVA, SBR, bonding agents. So today I did promise, they've been going on at me. I'm going to use SBR as a bonding agent in the utility room downstairs at the back of the house. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to review SBR, and if you've been following the channel, you will know I'm an avid user of PVA. I don't feel the need to go to SBR. Everybody's saying it's much better. I mean, we will find out, won't we? Right, I think that's probably about it for this morning's little chat. I'm just waiting for Shay to turn up, and we will get in there and start doing some stuff. Right, catch you in a minute. Oh yeah, there was something else I wanted to mention. So I've been putting up the videos a day later than usual. So I've been recording it, editing that night, and I've been scheduling them for 5 o'clock. the next day, because apparently, according to the graph, that's where most people are online and you can get the most amount of hits in the quickest amount of time. And apparently that affects the long-term productivity of how well the video does in the long term. So that's what I've been doing. But I did it quickly last night. I was having a problem with my hard drive on the laptop, and I accidentally scheduled today's video. It's supposed to be 6 o'clock this evening. I accidentally put it in for 6 o'clock this morning, so I was a little bit confused what was going on when I was looking at the analytics, and I was like, oh, I realised what I've done. So yeah, video went up at 5 p.m. last night, and another video went up at 6 a.m. this morning, and I'm going to be recording this. I don't know, I might put it up tonight, I don't know. Well, let's wait and see. And again, here I'm back again. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about monkeys today. The stuff I'm referencing, if you are interested in that sort of stuff, it's from a book, I believe, and like I said, I've mentioned in previous ones, I used to listen to audiobooks whilst working. I found I could do that, and I soaked up the information quite well. If you're interested in that and the workings of the brain, the book is called, I believe it's called The Chimp Paradox, and I believe the author is Professor Peter Stevens or Stephen Peters. I'll have to look it up. I might put a link to it on the Facebook group. All right, guys. Right, let's get in there and stop chatting. Well, that's annoying, but so I wanted to get this down. Mate, you must have put the rose up, put that in, add the wire, and then put this onto the wire. How are you supposed to get a screwdriver in to pop that off? Get in this little utility area, and like, paper tape was failed all the way down this edge. We're gonna have to have that off. So we are going to run some scrim across there, and I'm backing it up with some staples, and we'll probably plaster down that little bit up the top there rather than trimming it off afterwards.
It's not so bad, but like, they start marketing to you, don't they? And they'll be like, oh, if you've had a stressful morning, they'll be like, oh, we got this medication that helps you relax, or something, you know what I mean?
Shay's got this bit of perished plasterboard down here that we're going to bond up. Apparently it's all going to have a plastic sheet over it. Okay then, all you SBR boys, I'm going to use it. First problem with using SBR here, they put one of those lids on it, and what's happened is where the SBR has been used, it's collected all around the bottom, and you have to push the lid down, but because it's all full of SBR, it won't disengage. So I'm going to have to just clean all this SBR out, and hopefully I can get this thing open. Okay, so I pulled all that out from around the bottom, and I managed to open it and get some SBR out. Now, the first thing to notice about SBR is it's a lot thinner than PVA. I don't want to use my PVA roller and have to wash it out because I don't want to contaminate it. This is neat SBR, so in this case we'll take a little bit more time and brush it on. But where it's quite thin, it can splash a lot easier. And SBR being as strong as it is, you really don't want to get it on stuff that you don't want to get it on because it won't come off again. So there we go, we have put SBR on this Artex ceiling that has been painted in here as well. We've done that. So yes, SBR is a lot thinner than PVA, and as a result it actually goes a lot further. SBR is a lot more expensive than PVA, but with this brush I noticed because it's so thin, it was getting into all the nooks and crannies really nicely, and that little bit you saw me have previously in the tray has pretty much done this whole ceiling, this little band across here. I just had to put a tiny little bit more in just to get this, it did half of the ceiling, I just had a last half of the ceiling to do. So yeah, it's a lot thinner, goes a lot further, even though it's more expensive. But I've brushed this on, so where it's so thin, and of course I'm brushing upside down, it's starting to bleed out and it's coming down onto the handle. Now if you ever had SBR in your hands, it sticks to it, and it takes about 3 days for it to come off, for the oils in your hands to start breaking it down. And so what I've done, I've had to wash my hands immediately, get that off, because after about 2 or 3 days, you'll see it start cracking off, and it like crazy pave, and it'll give you this really rough texture to your fingers, and it'll start coming off. But it's horrible to have on your hands. If you do something like stroke the cat when you're at that stage of SBR coming off your hands, you turn around, you'll have all hairs stuck all over your hand, and you'll have hairy palms, much similar to the Grinch who stole Christmas. And it's, it depends how long the hair is on your cat, I assume. So that is an issue there. I know Kirk Johnston has his own brand of PVA. SBR, which is a lot thicker, and it's coloured in pink. I've not tried it, but that might be a remedy for the issue that we've got going on here, as he does a plasterer's blend. Now, the other problem with SBR is this all needs washing out. This brush is going to need washing out, because if I leave SBR in that's not going to be a brush anymore. That's going to become a hammer. So that needs properly cleaning out. Now, when I use PVA, I keep PVA in this tub like so, and it has a lid which goes on the top. Okay, and I just put that back in the van as it is, with this brush in there and with this roller, and I just get my pole, screw it into the roller, and use it as a kettle. Now, PVA, you can do this because it doesn't go off. When I put the lid on there, it stops it from going off, really, and it was a lot better than this. The reason all this edge is white like that is because I emptied it out and I used some silicone render primer, and that has gone off in there. But otherwise, yeah, it was all black, and the PVA kept breaking down, and it stayed really clean. So I don't know, because I don't do it, if you could do that with SBR, leave it in there. Well, I'm saying sometimes you get it out, the brush has fallen down, and there's PVA all over the handle. It's not such a problem, because you can get PVA off your hands. It's not as harsh. If that's all covered in SBR and I've got SBR all over my hands, then it's furry Grinch fingers 3 days later, unless you keep that cleaned off. So I've washed all my tools, washed my hands, and cleared out all the stuff that I don't want SBR to remain on. And I've come back to check the ceiling, and the SBR on there is still far too wet to put any plaster on that yet. Okay, so just giving this SBR 20 minutes to pick up, and that's exactly what it's done. It's tiny little bit of dampness still there, look. Yeah, looks like it's ready to go. Let's get some plaster on it. So we've knocked up just multi-finish, and as always, going over on these textured surfaces, we've knocked the plaster up a fair bit stiffer than you normally would going over plasterboard or something, because we need to achieve the depth. And you can see the sort of consistency we got, and we're going to go over the textured ceiling. Okay, so we're in this hallway area now. This is our control experiment here. So this bit of ceiling had been PVA'd. The only thing that's slightly different is that this was PVA'd yesterday evening, so it's had all night to kind of like go off. Now, one thing I am noticing the difference is we've got the same amount of sag, so the PVA was touch dry, same as pretty much the SBR was. But if we notice here, look, so we got the pattern bleeding through, but there's also air bubbles. Okay, and see if I can find. See these little pimples here? This is air bubbles. If we come through here, come through to here to the SBR ceiling, then we've got the same issue with the pattern bleeding through, but I have noticed there are no air bubbles here. Nothing to speak of anyway. There was a couple on this surface, quite a few of them, but and so the only difference is this was sealed 20 minutes before the plaster went on, rather than.
It does feel a bit slidey though.
Well,
like when I was going around here, for example, the main body of the plaster was sliding.
Okay.
And that don't really happen with PVA.
Well,
PVA is a bit more tacky and that's sliding.
maybe. I haven't really noticed that much difference on it, to be honest with you. But as the ceiling picks up, we'll continue watching what happens. Okay, so other than those ceilings being primed at different times, everything else is exactly the same. Exactly the same gear, exactly the same gauge, exactly the same consistency. So at the moment, I've just put it on, just flattened it in. I can't feel any difference in the speed that they're going off. I'm going to give it a few minutes and we'll get back in there and we'll check them out. Okay, so we're here back on the PVA ceiling. It's kind of ready to put second coat on. I did the same thing in the SBR ceiling and I can't really notice any real difference between setting times. It feels pretty much just the same. Okay, because it's such a small amount we're doing today, I did purposely knock up a little bit too much for the first gauge. You can see it's kind of stiffening up a little bit inside the bucket. But I did that on purpose because I'm going to knock this back, add some new fresh powder to it, a little bit of water, knock it all back and mix up for putting on the top coat to this now. And remember, you don't need anywhere near as much plaster as you did for putting it on, especially when you're doing a textured ceiling like this, because we needed so much of it to build up the depth. But this time we're just putting a tight skin over the whole top. Right, now let's look what's going on. We are back on the SBR ceiling. Now, I can see with my eye, my beady little eye, that this pattern is bleeding through. So we've given it the first coat, flattened it in, put a tight second coat over it, and I can see there is quite a lot of ripples that I can't seem to get out at this stage. This is the SBR ceiling. There's no air bubbles. Give it that. Let's go and have a look at the PVA ceiling. So here we are here. For me, at this stage, though it is hard to see via the camera, this looks flatter to me, and the pattern has bled through less than on the SBR ceiling. I think what's happening is, even though the difference between these two ceilings, exactly the same plaster, exactly the same plasterer, exactly the same tools, the only difference is this got PVA'd yesterday. And that SBR run got SBR this morning, just before we did it. So, I think what's happening is, the PVA is allowing some suction to get up into the surface that we're plastering, and it's pulling that plaster up. The SBR in that run is sealed it, it's waterproof. So it's not drawing any moisture out of it anymore. At this point, I'm thinking PVA is winning the battle. But let's not be hasty. Let's wait till the end of the video and make our final assessment. So we are back on the PVA ceiling, and this is trailed up as I'd expect, as usual. Let's go to the SBR. So here we are to the SBR ceiling. And now at this stage, they seem to be kind of like on par with each other again. But I will say this first coat on the SBR did not flatten in as nice as the PVA one, and as a result there have been more ripples and there was more bleed through at the timing that I put the second coat on. There's more bleed through, and I really had to open the trowel up on this one and feed that gear back into it. So I would say this took more work to get into this condition than the one I did with the PVA, and I've been remaining with this carbon steel trowel the whole time. Nothing else has touched it. But as far as condition goes, yeah, there's not much difference at all. But yeah, I'd say this took more work, and I really had to pay attention to where potential ripples might be. So that stage just then was the first time those ceilings both saw a wet brush, a little bit of water at first trowel up. So we are back on the PVA ceiling, and it is trailed up as I expected it to. There's no major ripples or any inconsistency in this whatsoever. It's all the same material flattening down. Let's go into the SBR room. So guys, in here, I would say it's a different story. Although the flatness is probably about the same, there's still, look, where I've had to again fill with what's coming out, but now we're at a stage where there's quite a bit of difference in what's coming out. These are ripples I've had to address and fill with the fat that's coming out. That's why there's such a discoloration there. Same here. Okay, so they're probably at the same sort of level in the sense of how far they've gone off. But I think what's happening here is the first coat, when it went on and we flattened that in, I think because the SBR had gone off quite so much, the first coat, as we flattened it in, was able to hydroplane across the plastered ceiling, the Artex ceiling. Of course, when SBR goes off, it goes off, it's waterproof. Now when they say you're supposed to go over PVA when it's tacky, yeah? Even if it does go touch dry PVA, it will pull back. If you look at all the specs, it says no, you can't go over it dry. You can, right? It does happen. It will liven back up. It won't be quite the same, and like quite often, if something's been PVA'd and left for quite a long time, I will give it another light one, just to lighten it up, rather than PVAing something 1 week and then coming back the next week and plastering it. I won't do that. If it's the same day and it feels touch dry, I've PVA'd that this morning, this afternoon feels touch dry, I'll quite often go over it. Never ever had any problems. I've never seen PVA foul, not in situations like this. So what's happened is, as I say, the SBR is its own thing. It's sealed it too much in this case. It's too strong. The water has sat upon the top of the PVA. SBR, right? The water has sat up on the level, on the layer of SBR, whereas PVA is livened back up, and the plaster and the PVA, there's no definite line there between them. They've kind of become, at that point, the same thing. And that's why I think PVA has grabbed the first coat better and held it still. This has been able to slide across the SBR. I'm comfortable and confident that we will get this into a perfectly acceptable state, I've got to admit, and it's probably more of a matter of your techniques, what you like to do. But in this case, it's getting a little bit too far. The stuff that's coming out of the ceiling and what I'm having to fill the discrepancies with, it's getting too far apart. The granules in the fat now are getting very, very, very small, and I'm trying to plane the ripples off, but they're going too much, so I'm having to fill the fat. And then you can walk away from the ceiling with it filled in fat and it will look fine. But as the ceiling dries, because the granules in the fat are much smaller and there's much more water in there and it's more slimy, as it dries, those granules are going to contract together and it's going to cause ripples again. If they're going to be enough to upset what it looks like after it's been painted, because remember, with paint going on, you're going to put a good couple of coats on it. You might be up to, 1/2 mil thick, maybe 1 millimetre thick of paint if you put loads on, and of course the paint stipples it up as well if you put it on with a roller. So whether it's going to cause enough of a problem to be noticeable after it's painted, probably not. But at this point now, I'm trying to be as honest as I can. I want to like SBR, and I'm sure in some situations it's perfectly fine. But in this situation, over this ceiling where there wasn't much suction in the first place, I'm gonna say PVA is winning, and it's a better thing to use over if you're actually trying to physically glue the plaster to the surface. Maybe we need to do another experiment where we're going over a high suction surface and see how both of them react in that situation. So let's not write SBR off. It's worked, it's done its job, but for ease and practicality in this situation, I'm going to say PVA. And this still needs another trowel up, so we're going to leave it a few minutes, we're going to give it its last trowel, and then we're going to have a look at it. But I think the conclusion is there. So we just ran over the ceiling with stainless steel flexi. Shay's using it on this one now. Got a little bit of a ripple there as well, isn't it, Shay? You've had to fill that with fat.
Yeah, this one. Bit, but...
Yeah, no, I've had the same problem.
check it, it's not actually really that much.
No, it's fine. So yeah, exactly what's happened here. Some of the ripples from not flattening of the first coat so much has come through. Now remember, we're using this trowel, carbon steel, which is straight and very, very strong steel. This is why I use trowels like this, because it exposes things like that. If there is the slightest ripple, you're going to have to address it. So yeah, those guys are gone now with that multi-tool, making all that racket. So yeah, that harder steel, carbon steel trowel will expose discrepancies like this. And that is why I use them. Now if you're using a stainless steel perma shape, they might not have shown up at all, and it'll look fantastic. So we've got a few more ripples here. I mean, they're not ripples, they're inconsistencies in the material I've had to use. Okay, so those light areas of that, they're not actually ripples. So when it's painted, I'm sure it's going to be fine. But it just shows you the discoloration over this SBR one compared to the PVA one through here. Done at exactly the same time. And I promise you, I've tried my hardest on both of them. I've done exactly the same things to both of them. Completely controlled experiment as far as I could. And as you can see, the material finish on this one is far more consistent. There's no fat been used to fill any ripples. So, in this case, I mean, PVA is a clear winner. Although there's no real difference, I'd say, to the setting time. They both went off about the same sort of time. I did put the SBR one on, although it's the same gauge, I put it on before I put the PVA one on. So this is just that tiny little bit older as well. And I was actually, when I was checking them throughout the experiment, when I was coming back in, I was actually going to the PVA one before I was going to the SBR one and troweling that up. So yeah. So yeah, it's up to you. I mean, there's not too much in it, to be honest with you. Maybe I need to try SBR again, but the results for me, the way I do things, are quite clear. PVA is actually better in this particular situation. I'm going to keep my eyes open for another opportunity to test PVA and SBR and put them head to head again. And like I say, for doing heavily Artex and painted ceilings such as this, PVA all the way, not SBR. With high suction area, dry plastered walls that need reskimming, then I might try it there as well. So yeah, I think that's the conclusion. And there's not much else to film today. It's early, we just need to get packed up and get away. What's the day? Thursday, isn't it? Yeah. We've got a nice job tomorrow, actually. I've seen a small video of it. It's something a little bit more different, and it's over a place called Pangbourne, which is a really nice place to go. I go there quite often, to be honest with you, through the summer. The river runs through there. So I'll let you guys crack on. I'm not sure when I'll get this video up. I might get it up, I don't know. Let's see how we feel. Right, have a fantastic Thursday night, and I'll probably see you over the weekend at some point. Right guys, see you later. Thanks very much for watching.